On the last episode of KK Uploads Infrequently, I talked about Kalusha and how obese its leader is. I also alluded to the events that happened at the end of Alize's questline. In this episode, we're pretending the things that happened on Alize's questline didn't. After we return to the Crystarium from Araeng, we begin another discussion with the Exarch. He details what's currently happening in the world and why we were summoned here in the first place. He tells us that a star from the ancient past was split into 14 shards, one of which is called the Source, which is where we come from. The rest are called stars 1 through 13 because Square Enix is lazy. All of them maintain a connection to one another and especially to the Source. This connection means that if one of the stars dies, that not only kills everyone on that star, but also causes a gruesome calamity on the Source. Fun fact, 7 stars have already died, killing millions of people. That fact made me feel depressed, after which I decided I would pretend that too didn't happen. Speaking of genocide, we are informed by Playboy magazine that Holminster Switch is on the receiving end of one as we speak, and Team Underage run up the stairs to fight the horde of Sin Eaters alone. Good luck, losers. Unfortunately, the Exarch does not allow anyone to enter the town before he arrives. They live this day. Of course, being one of the very few useful characters in the game, we are forced to come along to help this village. Upon arriving, we're immediately informed that half of the people of this humble village have escaped and the other half are googling the definition of a slaughter. With how many Sin Eaters are in this town, there are only 2 logical explanations. The first is a light warden. The second is a rave. We are, unfortunately, forced to assume the former. To explain how a light warden works, I will use an analogy from my people. Imagine for a second the Sin Eaters are a gang, and the light warden is their crime lord. We'll call them the Floods, for no particular reason. The Floods tend to follow their crime lord en masse wherever he goes, from Booty Bay to Bloody Massacre. If, during this multiplayer event, the crime boss manages to be slain, it is customary for the Floods to immediately go for their deceased boss's Yeezys. Here's where the parallels end. Seeing as Light Wardens actually don't have shoes, a Light Warden's death only marks the beginning of a sacred ritual, where, instead, the shoes that end up being stolen are the souls of all those who oppose him. So now, we all become him. But for now, we will ignore this mortifying detail because the Exarch doesn't seem to mind. Since this is our first ShadowBringers dungeon, we are introduced to a new mechanic, one which will allow us to remove the first 2 M's from MMO and take NPCs instead of actual human beings into the dungeon. Being the antisocial person that I am, I immediately take up this offer and I am, likewise, immediately faced with the reality that this was a colossal mistake. 5 minutes into the dungeon and 5 minutes into the dungeon and the dynamic duo stand directly in not just 1, but 2 telegraphed attacks and get decimated. Following which I proceed to drudge through solar pack clears, then when I was level 15. About 2/3 of the way through the switch, we see the very reason why the saying "you can't escape your past" exists. We do the only logical thing, which is to kill it without remorse and pretend it didn't exist. 10 more minutes of suicidal thoughts later, and we encounter the Light Warden made of pure muscle and Chad energy. Why does everything I fight have to look like this? Why do I have to fight these disgusting creatures? And you're telling me he's eating my sins? This thing, the creation of this thing was a sin. The fact that this thing exists is a sin. Unfortunately, it was all hype because even with the AA batteries, we managed to fell this creature with complete ease. Immediately after the Light Warden dies, he comes directly for my Yeezys. However, the Exarch had a contingency plan. It was there all along. We were just too blind to see it. I'm the main character and I have no true weakness. So with the power of his Chad energy and my Yeezys, I split the heavens and bring the expansion's title to fruition. Now, this was an unparalleled opening for any expansion thus far. Everything that happened here was incredible. And yes, that even includes a questline who shall not be named. I just can't help but say how highly impressed I am. This was a straight knockout and it seems it'll only get better in the future. The only issue that I've had so far with this expansion is putting together videos that do it justice. But you can guarantee I will do as many as I can because I didn't spend 9 months of conscious human existence getting to this expansion to not suck it dry of content. Suffice it to say, I'm having a pretty good time.